There are people who walk into a room and something shifts. The air changes. Conversations pause. Eyes move in their direction. Not because they demanded attention, but because something about them commands it. They haven't said a word yet. They haven't done anything dramatic, but everyone in that room feels it. That invisible force surrounding certain individuals, that magnetic, almost threatening presence, is what we call a dangerous aura. And here's the truth. Most people are never told that aura is not an accident. It is not a gift some people are born with, while others are left empty-handed. It is built deliberately, strategically, psychologically. Today, we are going to break down exactly how the most powerful, most feared, and most respected figures in history constructed that presence, using principles drawn from one of the most controversial minds to ever live, Machiavelli. Machiavelli was a 15th century Italian diplomat, philosopher, and political strategist whose writings shook the world. His most famous work, The Prince, was considered so dangerous that it was banned by the Catholic Church. Why? Because Machiavelli didn't write about how people should behave. He wrote about how power actually works. He stripped away the illusions, the social niceties, the comfortable lies, and revealed the raw, unfiltered mechanics of influence, control, and dominance. What you are about to learn is not theory. It is the psychology of the most dangerous, most compelling, and most influential people on the planet, translated into practical principles you can begin applying immediately. But before we go further, understand this. A dangerous aura is not about being violent or aggressive. It is not about being rude or cold for the sake of it. It is about something far deeper. The psychology of perception, the strategy of mystery, the discipline of emotional control, and the art of making others feel that you are operating on a level they cannot quite reach. The weak seek to be liked. The powerful choose to be respected and sometimes feared. Machiavelli understood that people do not respond to who you actually are. They respond to who they perceive you to be. That means your aura is built not just in what you do, but in how you are seen. And that is where we begin. Stay locked in. This is going to change the way you move through the world. The first principle Machiavelli teaches us about dangerous aura is one that modern society has almost entirely forgotten: the power of silence and scarcity. We live in a world of noise. Everyone is talking, everyone is posting, sharing, explaining, justifying, and oversharing every thought that crosses their mind. Social media has created an entire generation of people who feel compelled to fill every silence with words, every moment with content, every interaction with commentary, and in doing so, they have made themselves completely ordinary. Machiavelli wrote that a prince who speaks too freely invites contempt. When you reveal everything about yourself, your plans, your fears, your excitement, your frustrations, you hand people a map to manipulate you, you become predictable. And predictable people are never feared. They are never truly respected. They are simply managed. The person with a dangerous aura speaks less than others expect. They listen more than they reveal. When they do speak, every word carries weight because those words are rare. People pay attention to things that are scarce. Gold is valuable because there isn't much of it. A person who speaks only when it matters becomes gold in a world full of noise. Think about the most powerful people you have ever encountered in your own life. How many of them were constantly talking, explaining themselves, seeking approval through words? Almost none. Power moves in silence. Dominance is quiet. The lion does not announce its presence in the jungle. Every other animal already knows. Here is what you must practice. When you feel the urge to fill silence, resist it. Let the silence sit. Let it become uncomfortable for the other person. You will be amazed at how much information people volunteer when they are trying to fill silence you are perfectly comfortable with. And in those moments, you are not just gathering information, you are demonstrating control. Emotional control is the foundation of a dangerous aura. If you can sit in silence without anxiety, if you can receive news, good or bad, without visible reaction, if you can be challenged without flinching, you signal to every person watching that you operate on a different psychological frequency. Machiavelli understood that perception is reality in the arena of power. When others cannot read you, they cannot control you. And when they cannot control you, they begin to fear you. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is a weapon. Learn to carry it. Once you understand silence, you must understand its companion mystery. Machiavelli was deeply aware that people fear what they cannot fully understand. The leader who remains partially unknowable holds power that the transparent leader never will. Mystery is not deception, not in the manipulative sense. It is the strategic management of what you reveal and when you reveal it. It is the discipline of never showing your full hand. It is the understanding that people will always project onto a blank canvas, and what they project is almost always more powerful than the reality. Think about the figures throughout history who have commanded the most fear and respect. Genghis Khan, Napoleon, Cleopatra, Leonardo da Vinci. What do they have in common? None of them were fully understood by those around them. There was always a layer, another dimension to their personality, their intelligence, their capabilities that remained just out of reach. People could never quite pin them down, and that incompleteness made them magnetic. In your own life, you must resist the deeply human urge to be fully known. This is difficult because vulnerability and openness are celebrated today, and in personal relationships, they have their place. But in the arena of influence, power, and social dynamics, revealing too much too soon destroys the aura before it has a chance to form. Here is how this works. Psychologically, the human brain is a prediction machine. It is constantly trying to model the people around it to understand motivations, to anticipate behaviors, to feel safe by knowing what someone will do next. When you give people everything they need to model you perfectly, they relax. They feel they have figured you out. And once they have figured you out, they stop being fascinated by you. But when you remain partially unknowable, when your motivations are unclear, when your reactions are unpredictable within reason, when people cannot quite determine how you will respond in a given situation, the brain keeps working. It keeps paying attention. It keeps watching you. And that attention is the beginning of a dangerous aura. Machiavelli called this strategic ambiguity. Never confirm everything. Never deny everything. Let people wonder. Let them speculate. Let their imagination fill the gaps, because their imagination will always make you more powerful than the truth alone ever could. Be the question that no one can fully answer. Now we move into one of Machiavelli's most provocative and misunderstood teachings: the relationship between fear, respect, and love in the construction of power. Machiavelli famously asked, "Is it better to be loved or feared?" His answer was that ideally, a leader would be both, but if forced to choose, fear is more reliable than love. This sounds ruthless. It sounds cold. But before you dismiss it, understand what Machiavelli actually meant, because it is one of the most psychologically accurate observations ever recorded about human behavior. Love, in the context of social power, is conditional. People love you when you are giving them what they want. When circumstances change, when you can no longer provide what they desire, when you make a decision they disagree with, when someone else offers them more love, fades. Love built on comfort evaporates under pressure. But fear, not terror, not abuse, but the deep psychological weight of knowing there are consequences for betrayal is far more durable. It is rooted not in your generosity, but in your character, in your boundaries, in the unspoken understanding that you are not someone to be tested lightly. Here is where most people fail. They try to build their aura through approval. They want to be liked. They soften their edges to avoid conflict. They laugh at jokes that aren't funny. They agree with opinions they don't hold. They do all of this because approval feels safe, and what they get in return is respect from no one. People with a dangerous aura are not approval seekers. They have internalized something most people never do, that the need for approval is a form of weakness, and weakness is sensed before it is seen. It radiates. People pick it up in how you speak, how you carry yourself, how quickly you change your position when challenged. Machiavelli taught that the prince who is feared does not need to be cruel. He simply needs to be consistent. Consistent in his standards, consistent in his responses to disrespect, consistent in his refusal to compromise his core principles, no matter who is watching or what the social cost might be. This consistency is what builds the dangerous aura, not aggression, not coldness, consistency. The person who enforces their boundaries the same way, whether they are talking to the most powerful person in the room or the least. That is someone who commands deep, instinctive respect. Be immovable. Be consistent. Let the world adjust to you. Let us go deeper into the mechanics of presence, because Machiavelli understood something that modern psychology has now confirmed. Power is communicated before you speak a single word. Your body, your movement, your posture, the pace of your breath, the way your eyes move across a room. All of this is transmitting information constantly. And the people around you are reading it, not consciously, but in the ancient instinctive part of the brain that evolved to assess threat and status in fractions of a second. Most people move through the world apologetically. They take up as little space as possible, physically, emotionally, socially. They hunch their shoulders. They speak quickly, rushing to finish before someone interrupts. They look away during confrontation. They laugh nervously when challenged. Every one of these behaviors signals low status, and once that signal is received, the aura collapses before it ever forms. The person with a dangerous aura moves differently. They are never rushed. This is one of the most powerful signals you can send. The signal that your time is under your control, that no external pressure can force you to accelerate beyond your chosen pace. Walk slower than the situation seems to demand. Take an extra beat before responding. Move with the quiet certainty of someone who knows exactly where they are going and has no doubt they will arrive. Machiavelli wrote about the importance of the princess sparing, the way he presented himself not just in formal settings, but in every casual interaction, because it is in the casual moments, the unguarded moments, that true character and true power are revealed. Anyone can perform confidence at a podium. The dangerous aura is the one that holds even when no one is watching. Even when the stakes seem low, even in silence, your eye contact deserves special attention. Most people either avoid eye contact, signaling submission, or maintain it aggressively in a way that reads as insecure overcompensation. The powerful gaze is calm, steady, not staring, but settled. It communicates that you are completely present, completely unbothered, and completely comfortable in the weight of this moment. Practice the stillness. Practice the slowness. Practice the gaze. These are not superficial techniques. They are the physical language of power that Machiavelli understood, and that the most commanding figures in every era have used to build their presence before ever demonstrating their capability. Your body is speaking. Make sure it is saying the right thing. There is a principle in Machiavelli's work that is rarely discussed, but is perhaps the most psychologically potent of all the tools in this arsenal: the strategic use of unpredictability. Most people work very hard to be predictable. They believe that consistency in behavior makes them trustworthy, and trustworthiness makes them powerful. And while consistency of character is absolutely essential, as we discussed, there's a crucial difference between being consistent in your values and being predictable in your reactions. Machiavelli observed that the prince who is entirely predictable in his responses becomes easy to manipulate. If people know exactly how you will react to a given provocation, they can engineer your behavior. They can trigger you deliberately. They can use your predictability as a leash. But the leader who responds in ways that are not easily anticipated, who sometimes ignores a challenge rather than engaging it, who sometimes responds to a small slight with overwhelming force, who sometimes shows warmth where coldness was expected, and coldness where warmth was assumed, that leader cannot be managed, cannot be manipulated, cannot be controlled. This is the dark psychology of unpredictability. It is not about being erratic or unstable. That would signal weakness, not power. It is about being strategically variable. It is about ensuring that no one around you ever feels entirely confident they know what you will do next. Think of the people in your life who you find most compelling, most impossible to fully dismiss, most difficult to stop thinking about. There is almost certainly an element of unpredictability in them. They surprised you. They responded in ways you did not anticipate. They broke your mental model of them, and in doing so, they forced you to keep paying attention. The dangerous aura requires this, because the moment you become fully predictable, you become safe, and safe is the opposite of dangerous. Safe is comfortable, and comfortable people are dismissed. They are taken for granted. They become furniture in the architecture of someone else's life. Vary your availability. Vary your responses. Occasionally withdraw where engagement was expected. Occasionally engage where withdrawal was assumed. Not randomly, strategically, always in service of reinforcing the central message your aura is designed to communicate. That you operate on your own internal logic. That you answer to your own code, and that no one outside of you determines how you move. The unpredictable force cannot be stopped. It can only be respected. We arrive now at what may be the most internally demanding of all Machiavelli's dark psychology principles, and the one that separates those who truly build a dangerous aura from those who merely perform one. The absolute mastery of your own emotions. Machiavelli was clinical in his assessment of emotional vulnerability in leadership. He wrote that a prince who is swept away by his emotions hands his enemies the keys to his destruction. And he was right, not just in the political arena, but in every arena of human interaction where power is exercised or contested. Emotional mastery does not mean becoming cold or disconnected. It means developing the capacity to feel everything and show only what serves your purpose. It means never being publicly It means that when someone insults you, challenges you, tries to provoke you into a reaction, your face remains calm, your body remains still, your voice remains measured. Not because you feel nothing, but because you have trained yourself to never let your emotions become weapons in someone else's hands. This is extraordinarily rare. Most people are reactive. They are almost entirely driven by the emotional weather of their environment. They are up when things are good, down when things are bad, anxious when challenged, elated when praised. Their inner state is publicly visible, and therefore publicly the person with a dangerous aura is different. Their inner state is a private country with no public access. Praise does not visibly inflate them. Criticism does not visibly wound them. Provocation does not visibly anger them. They receive everything with the same quiet steadiness, and that steadiness is deeply psychologically unsettling to people who are used to being able to read and therefore manage others. Machiavelli understood that this kind of emotional sovereignty communicates one thing above all else: that this person cannot be controlled through the normal social mechanisms: approval, disapproval, social pressure, emotional leverage. And a person who cannot be controlled through those mechanisms is someone that others instinctively treat with extraordinary care. Begin to audit yourself. Watch where your emotions leak. Watch where you seek validation. Watch where you react when you should remain still. Each of those moments is a crack in the aura, a place where your power drains out. Seal the cracks. Master the interior, because true power, the kind that Machiavelli wrote about, the kind that history remembers, is always first an inside job. One final segment remains, and it will tie everything together. Everything we have covered in this video, the silence, the mystery, the distinction between fear and love, the physical language of power, the strategic unpredictability, the mastery of emotion, all of it points to a single unified truth that Machiavelli embedded throughout his work. A dangerous aura is the external expression of an internal transformation. You cannot fake it indefinitely. You cannot perform it without substance behind the performance. The people who adopt a posture without doing the psychological work are exposed quickly, because a dangerous aura is not a costume. It is a consequence. It is what happens when a person genuinely stops seeking external validation, genuinely masters their emotional responses, genuinely commits to operating by their own code regardless of social pressure. Machiavelli's deepest message was not about manipulation. It was about about becoming the kind of person whose presence alone communicates that they are operating at a level most people will never reach. Not because of arrogance, not because of cruelty, but because of discipline, self-knowledge, and an absolute refusal to be ordinary. The world does not respond to the loudest. It does not ultimately bow to the most aggressive. It responds, and always has responded, to those rare individuals who have done the deep, difficult, invisible work of becoming genuinely formidable on the inside, and whose outside simply reflects that truth. This is your challenge, not to perform power, but to become it. Not to imitate the dangerous aura, but to build the internal architecture that makes it inevitable. Start with silence. Build mystery. Enforce your boundaries with consistency. Control your body and your face and your reactions. Remain strategically unpredictable. Master your inner world completely. Do this work every day, in every interaction, in every moment when the easy choice is to react and the powerful choice is to be still, and the aura will form, not as something you wear, as something you are. If this video reached something in you, if it gave you a new lens through which to understand power and presence, then you are exactly where you belong. Here on Mind of the Alpha, where we break down the psychology of dominance, self-mastery, and elite mindset with no filters and no fluff. hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And we will see you in the next one, because the journey to becoming your most powerful self is just getting started.